Je vais les hack, ouais. J'attends que ça commence et je les hack après.
Hi, I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games. Thanks for joining us for today's Path of Exile livestream. We have a packed show today, with announcements for Path of Exile 2, as well as the exclusive unveiling of Path of Exile Affliction, which launches on December 8th on PC and Mac, and on December 13th on console.
Twitch drops are enabled on today's livestream, so make sure you
Twitch
follow
drop,
the
45 minutes sur le stream et vous avez les ailes ultimes. Ratez pas ça.
We'll
Ratez
start
pas
with
ça.
Path of Exile 2, where Jonathan will walk
Ultime
you
les
through our
ailes.
latest announcements. Mark will then take you on a deep dive into the new Path of Exile Affliction.
Let's go, shop, let's
which
go.
launches in 1 week. He'll cover the league mechanics, its rewards, some new content we're adding to the core Path of Exile experience,
New core content.
and some large metagame changes.
Oh!
I'll then show you our annual course
Metagame changes.
and we'll head into our live Q&A session.
Metagame
so you
changes.
will ask us your questions from Twitch chat. After the live stream, we'll drop the full patch notes.
I'd like to hand over to
shit.
Jonathan Rogers, Game Director
Holy
of Path
shit.
of Exile 2.
Alors
Hey
ça,
guys,
ça
it's been
m'excite
a few
ça.
months since we introduced you to the Druid in Path of Exile 2, but one of the things that we're really focusing on now is how varied each of the classes feels to play. The monk darts around quickly
il est
from
moins
enemy
bien
to
habillé que moi,
enemy, building
sérieux.
and unleashing combos. If he doesn't stay in combat, he loses momentum and has to build it up again.
Regardez ces animations. Aux petits oignons les animaux. Je vais me foutre là-bas.
The warrior, on the other hand, is like a slow but unstoppable freight train. A warrior commits to big attacks and relies on stunning his enemies to stay safe in the thick of combat. When an opening presents itself, a warrior can use even larger attacks to demolish his enemies. The Huntress seamlessly moves from melee to ranged combat and back. The true damage potential of the Huntress is only unlocked when you learn to combine ranged and melee abilities together.
Ok. Les spears c'est quand même ça commence stylé hein.
And then there are the spellcasters. The sorceress is a pure caster who much prefers to stay at range and drop powerful spells on her foes. If she finds herself surrounded by enemies, she would rather use an ability to escape than to take them on directly.
Le shatter des mobs est incroyable hein. Oh et le shatter des mobs est incroyable.
The
Hein.
druid is also a spellcaster, but unlike the sorceress, he uses his spells as a means to support his melee abilities. And by melee abilities, we mean he can turn into a giant animal and rip his enemies to pieces. Each of these classes
Ça, on n'avait
feels
pas vu ça.
extremely different to
Ça
play.
lui a coupé le
But
loin.
we want to go even further. It's time to check out the mercenary.
Ok là c'est nouveau. Juste c'est l'arbalétrier. J'imagine que nous parlait du WASD aussi. Imagine. Je vais me foutre à gauche comme ça vous voyez les skills en bas. Les HP c'est pas tant important. Putain là, vous avez vu que l'espèce de knockback quand tu mets le last hit. C'est un détail hein mais ça marche bien hein.
When thinking about each new class, we really try to think about how we can make combat feel different from all the others. For the mercenary, that difference is the crossbow. A crossbow is fundamentally different than a regular bow because it fires instantly instead of needing to be drawn back. This means that you need immediate feedback. Clicking the fire button should make the character shoot instantly, just like in a shooter. As soon as we experience that, we realize that there are a lot of design lessons to learn from shooters.
Vraiment le
we
gameplay ça
fully
me fait
embrace
penser à un Vampire Survivor. La manière
Path
dont
of
il se
Exile
déplace
2,
etc.
we have crossbows that work like
Mais ça marche
sniper
bien hein.
rifles, shotguns, and assault rifles.
What the fuck? Hein? Oh,
But in order to really get shooter-like gameplay, we wanted to go further. In Path of Exile 2, we now support
c'est
WASD
littéralement
movement.
code.
You can now walk around in any direction independent of aiming. In fact, if this is your preferred method of gameplay, you can use it on any class, regardless of what weapon type you're using. You can change between click to move or WASD at any time.
Et tu peux changer
You can
quand tu
only
veux
hold
aussi.
two crossbows at a time, but Path of Exile 2 is all about interesting combinations of abilities, and this is where ammo skills come in. This is a burst shot crossbow, and right now I have armor-piercing ammo equipped, which makes it very effective
Armor-piercing
when
bolt.
facing a group of enemies, since it pierces right through them.
Bloody horrors!
But there are other ammos too. For a bigger single target, it might be a good idea to switch to incendiary. The more projectiles hit the target, the stronger the ignite, so you'll want to get up nice, close and personal with this one.
Ok, ça j'aime bien, tu vois.
If you have a bunch of targets running at you, you might want to slow them down. In this case, you could switch to permafrost
C'est
burst
point
shot.
blanc.
Shooting a bunch of smaller enemies at range will chill them, and potentially even freeze them in place.
C'est
Once
rude,
you
après
have
les
some
gars, c'est
frozen
probablement
enemies,
fait
though,
exprès.
you
Hein.
can switch back to armor piercing. Shooting a frozen enemy with armor
Ça a rien
piercing
de
burst
flotteur,
shot
le
will
skin.
explode the ice, doing a huge amount of damage to all nearby enemies.
Allez, des matchs qui prend par contre, mon dieu. Ah, les animations, c'est
Another
magnifique.
feature
Hein.
crossbows have is attachments. This is a grenade launcher. As
Mais-
you can see, when I equip it, it appears on the
Okay.
underside of the crossbow. These attachments are just like skill gems, so you effectively get extra skill slots. You can augment
C'est-
these with support gems, just
Ok,
like
là,
regular
c'est-
skills.
Oh, ça marche bien, putain, what the fuck. Ça marche tellement bien visuellement.
These grenades take a while to explode, so it's a good idea to pair them with some kind of crowd control, like permafrost burst shot.
Putain, visuellement, c'est beau, hein. Bien dans le mur, là.
We have other grenades too, though. This attachment is a flash grenade.
Mec,
It does barely any damage, but it does a huge amount of stun. It can be a great opener before you run into combat.
ok, d'accord. Ah, c'est littéralement Call of. Putain, les joueurs de Call of, ils étaient en train de se plaindre sur leur jeu récemment
Now,
là.
here's another
Juste
attachment,
login sur
an
POD
oil
en fait.
grenade. Firing one of these grenades coats the ground and nearby enemies in oil. Oil slows
Vague
enemies
combien
down,
là
so it's another
Ah, il est
useful
vague
crowd control
38 là.
mechanic.
Il est sur Kinoder Totem là. Totem. Fais gaffe parce qu'il y a les golems qui spawnent après. C'est un peu technique.
Now,
Dès qu'il
another
a
thing
upgrade
that
son
oil
arme.
can do is be set on fire. Any burning enemy or explosion will ignite the oil, causing extra burning damage.
Petit pack à punch aussi peut-être. Il y a les chiens après.
One of the problems with burst shot crossbows is that each pellet doesn't do much damage individually. This means that if enemies have armor, then it will be very effective preventing that damage. But thankfully, you can equip an additional crossbow in your second weapon set to deal with the weaknesses of your primary weapon. This is a rapid shot
Il
crossbow.
pite la boîte à
Rapid
mettre
shot
ça.
is great for closing on
les
enemies that you can
soldes.
shoot while running.
Ah ouais, c'est
In
beau
Path
par
of
contre.
Exile 2, we now have the ability to allow you to use some skills while moving. Being able to create skills like this opens up a lot of
Ça
new
va
design
rajouter tellement de
space and
dynamisme
allows
par
us
contre.
to really increase the pace of combat.
On le voyait avec le joueur mêlé la dernière fois, tu vois, quand il faisait l'espèce de slam qui se déplace en même temps. Ça rajoute tellement de dynamisme, ça c'est con hein, mais... Ça c'est cool, tu vois.
The armor-piercing version of Rapid Shot slowly erodes a monster's armor. Once the armor is fully broken, you can easily switch back to Burst Shot to deal much more damage.
Sa forme WSD, pas vraiment non, parce que ça va sûrement continuer
Being
dans la
able to
direction où
run
t'as
while
cliqué,
shooting with
j'imagine.
Rapid Shot is also great for when you want to perform a
J'imagine, hein.
fighting retreat.
Et après il a dit c'est pas avec tous les skills en plus. Donc bon. Putain, reload c'est les steel skills. Et là il y a les balles en bas à droite.
Ammo with Rapid Shot is also useful if you need to retreat. When you shoot the ground, it creates ice crystals. If you draw monsters back over these crystals, they explode, chilling the monsters.
Ok.
It's great if you want to set up a safe zone.
Bon en
before
réalité
pulling
ça
the
je suis
next
pas
pack.
sûr que ce soit... ça dans la réalité je suis pas convaincu par celui-ci mais ok.
Slowing enemies down can come in handy if you want to use the incendiary version of Rapid Shot. Using this skill requires that you charge up a little bit before it fires. But as it continues to heat up, it will do more and more damage.
Dans la com. Dans la com en speedrun. Les
It
gars
has
je
a
reload,
really
je reload.
large clip size, so you can just keep firing and firing.
Je
with it.
balance la para là.
The other really useful feature is that when the crossbow is heated up, it adds
Ah, je pense
extra
qu'ils sont
fire
partis sur
damage
B,
to any
merde.
grenade that you launch.
I need more bullets.
Now I've been using explosive grenades here,
Absolutely.
but it will work equally as well with flash or oil grenades too. If you use it with oil grenades, the oil will catch fire immediately.
Ouais, ça marche bien, hein. Bien, t'imagines ça avec du pierce, avec du chain, ce genre de choses. Ça devrait être pas mal, hein. Avec un vrai gear.
Another crossbow type that you can find is Power Shot. This one works just like a classic sniper rifle. Use it with armor-piercing ammo and it will penetrate armor on targets. So it's a good idea to use when something's really tough.
Non.
Now this skill has another interesting interaction with armor break. If an enemy has its armor broken, then your power shot hits a weak spot and does a huge amount of single target damage.
Ok.
With a bunch of extra stun for good measure.
Faut signer le target, c'est pas mal. Extra damage si tu perces l'armor. Hein. Ok. Pas mal de skill avec ce genre de mécanique.
Now,
Quoi.
the incendiary version of Power Shot is more like a rocket launcher. It does a big explosive blast at a distance.
Oh la musique par contre. Attends, je vais mettre fort parce que...
One of the really useful features of this version is that you can explode any grenades that happen to be on the ground.
Oh. Ah, les skills à combo, j'avoue que moi c'est le genre de truc que j'aime bien. Hein.
This combo
Ça me fait
also works
penser à
really
Shatter.
well with incendiary rapid shot. I'm going to charge up the heat on my
places tes
crossbow,
spikes, tu
shoot out
détonates.
a bunch of grenades, and then start the fireworks with a power shot.
Ou du Call of Steel. Oh là là, I coomed.
The ice version of Power Shot creates frost walls at a distance. This is great for crowd controlling monsters in tight passages. The wall segments have other uses too. If they get destroyed by monsters, then they will explode, doing a small amount of damage.
Hein? Non, ouais, mais ce sera pas la réalité ça. Je vais pas jouer comme ça en vrai.
Now, remember that burst shot combo with frozen enemies we did earlier? That works with ice walls too. Let's put burst shot back on. Now I can fill up this area with ice walls, then shoot them with armor-piercing burst shot for a
Ouais,
huge amount of
gameplay,
damage.
pas bon. Par contre, les combos, moi j'aime trop ça. Hein. Ah, c'est littéralement Earth Shatter. Hein. Tu poses tes spikes, bang, tu détonates. Ah, moi, ça vaut que ça.
Alright, it's time to face the boss for this area. Let's see how we fare against her with all the skills I've shown you so far.
Oh fuck, ça m'a fait peur. Bah c'est effrayant. J'ai littéralement des frissons, c'est horrible. Parce que là, elle a sorti de son ventre, tu vois. Genre, elle a littéralement accouché live on stream. En Full HD. Oh, c'est dégueulasse. Mais dans le bon sens, dégueulasse. Par contre, le joueur... T'as vu l'interaction avec le stun? Le knockback? Ça marche tellement bien. Ouh. Ouh. Faut cliquer sur les flasques, monsieur. Les flasques. Oh. Faut cliquer là. Vous voyez pas la vie? Ah, il a 0 HP. Il avait 0 HP.
What is going on in this godforsaken city?
And that's the Mercenary. It feels totally different
J'avoue,
than
je vais
anything
mettre en
we've made
scène PO
before,
là-dessus, j'avoue.
and shows you the range of what's
Ah oui, t'as raison,
possible
t'as
in
raison.
Path of Exile 2.
Son design est trop stylé, je suis d'accord. Hein. C'est incroyable. Hein. C'est incroyable. Hein. Juste clap. Clap, clap, clap.
We're going to be showing off a lot more about Path of Exile 2 as
ouais,
we
c'est
approach
tellement
its
stylé.
beta, but in the meantime, we've got a Path of Exile 1 expansion coming out next week. I'm going to hand over to Mark, also known as Neon, to show you what's in store for PoE 1.
Thanks, Jonathan. Well, let's just go ahead and get straight on into it. Here's the trailer for Path of Exile Affliction.
Comment ça, c'est pas Crus là?
Something moves in the mists. Something sinister. Thorn,
Il est où Chris?
rot,
Il a plus appelé.
plague,
C'est beau.
and claw.
Il y avait Scorn.
The affliction spreads. It hungers for more.
Bon, nouveau skill.
Tread lightly in the wildwood, which shifts and bites. Accept our help, the ancient power of the
Attends, t'as une
Esmir.
ascendance? T'as une ascendance en plus de la
Beware
mécanique?
spirits that yearn for freedom,
Oh le flow.
and the heart of evil that waits in the dark.
Ascendant Gems 100 Transfigured Gems 100 gemmes.
Ready yourself.
Let's go! Ultimatum!
Waiting.
Putain, enfin! Enfin! GG. GG. Pee-wee 2 bad, Pee-wee 1 good. GG à tous, login! Login! En vrai,
In the Affliction League, you will encounter sacred
C'est quoi les
wisps,
gemmes?
which beckon you to enter overgrown passageways that lead to the Viridian Wildwood.
ok. Ça c'est tellement
A
stylé
vile
visuellement par
affliction
contre.
has covered this forest with a foreboding darkness. You'll need to uncover the forest mysteries to put a stop to the source of the affliction. As you approach the darkness, the wisps burn away its affliction. Make sure you tread carefully, because they only have a limited amount of power. But be warned, the darkness is full of cursed monsters that emerge to kill you. As you explore, you might see other types of wisps trapped inside the darkness. The Wildwood is trying to guide you towards clues about its affliction. Follow the trails of wisps by collecting them, and you may uncover many different secrets. New characters to find, shrines,
Tellement
boss
beau.
battles, and all kinds of new
C'est tellement
encounters
beau.
are lurking in the forest just waiting for you to discover them. There are many rewards to earn for those brave enough to seek them.
Oh sa mère.
When the sacred wisps run out of energy, they will return you back to where you came from. Any other types of wisps you have collected will return with you to Rayclast. These wisps, having been saved from the affliction, disperse into the environment and inhabit randomly chosen monsters in the area, increasing their power and also their rewards.
Ok.
The different types of wisps have different effects on monsters, and sometimes more than one type will inhabit a single monster, making the
fuck.
fight even harder and even more rewarding. If this happens to a boss, you could be in for a tough fight.
Attends,
But
c'est
if you can
RNG?
overcome it, your efforts will not be in vain.
Attends, c'est... Oh, il est rapide. Attends, si
Primal
c'est
Wisps grant
RNG?
an item rarity bonus to inhabited monsters. Wild Wisps grant an item quantity bonus, and Vivid Wisps cause them to drop currency items. If a monster gets all three types, they'll drop more items of a higher rarity and a lot of currency.
Divine, Val,
While
Binding,
exploring the
ok.
Wildwood, you might find some of the last few Esmeri wanderers who have managed to survive in the forest since it was cursed. Each of them have different survival specializations, and they are willing to teach you if you agree to help them defeat the source of the affliction, the King in the Mists.
Ça fait quoi les ascendances?
Choose which of the Esmeri that you will complete quests for to unlock one of 3 new Ascendancy classes, which you can have in addition to your regular Ascendancy class.
Oh.
Up to 8 points for these classes are unlocked as you complete more quests for the Esmeri you are training under. The Warden of Eves can teach you to become a Warden of the Magi. a powerful class that takes advantage of wilderness knowledge. A Warden of the Magi can learn to use tinctures which coat their weapon, granting various powerful effects.
Oh, il y avait de la quantity. Le traveling
You
note,
can
c'était de la
equip
quantity.
tinctures in your flask slots and toggle them on and off at will.
Oh. Ah, c'est ça les
You can only
flasques.
have one enabled at a time, but the effects are
C'est en
quite
perma, hein,
conditional,
par contre.
so you may want to have more than one equipped and swap between them during combat.
Ok, j'aime bien ça. Ok. C'est perma, hein, par
For
contre. Hein.
example, equip the Ironwood Tincture to gain the benefit of always stunning enemies on full life.
Hein? Bah attends, c'est broken! Hein?
Tinctures can also get random mods. This one in particular adds stacks of wither to targets on full life and steals frenzy
What?
charges on hit, which makes it great as an initiator. When you are fighting rare monsters or finishing
broken!
off tough bosses, you will want to swap to the Oak Branch Tincture, which grants Culling Strike, increased damage against enemies on low life, and has a chance to steal a mod
Ça
from rare
coûte une
enemies you
flasque,
kill.
mais même.
You can buy more tinctures from the Warden of Eves using Primal Wisps when you find
What?
her in the forest, so keep an eye out for her.
Quoi?
As a Warden
All
of the
damage
Magi
can
gains more
ignite.
ascendancy points, they gain access to more skills that let them further specialize in tinctures. For example,
100% de chance
Zlayge's
d'ignite comme ça.
concoction allows you to invest in having your tinctures enhance your flasks. This ascendancy skill makes it important to think about which slots your tinctures are placed in, and what flasks they are adjacent to. You will have better uptime on those flasks, and they'll be stronger as a result.
effect.
But there are plenty more skills to choose even if you don't want to engage with tinctures. For example,
Oh, c'est giga
another
fort,
new
on est.
ability to unlock is Bark Skin. It's a reservation skill that causes bark to grow all over your body, increasing armor.
Les flasques elles sont perma, Gombo.
As you take damage, the bark falls off, increasing your
Mais bon.
evasion.
Waouh, c'est fort, hein.
Over time, the bark will grow back,
Waouh, c'est
removing the
fort.
evasion bonus but increasing your armor again.
Waouh, c'est fort.
The Breaker
ça
of
mec,
Oaths
c'est
can
fort.
teach you to become a Warlock of the Mists, an ascendancy class specializing in the darker arts
Ok,
of the
il va y
Izmir.
avoir des nerfs à côté, hein. Ça vous savez, hein. Par contre, vous savez, hein. Il y a des nerfs à côté de ça, hein.
One powerful ability you can choose is Blood Hunt, which grants an active skill called Ravenous. This skill lets you see what type a monster is under its life bar, whether it is a demon, beast, undead, construct, or humanoid. Consuming a corpse with this skill gives a buff to damage against that type of monster, and reduces damage taken by it.
Ok,
You can only
ok.
have one type active at a time, so it's a good idea to choose
Attends,
wisely
sur les
for the
boss, ça
area
marche,
that
ça?
you are in.
Non, non, ça
Some
marche pas,
bosses
ça.
like the Maven are eldritch in nature and don't conform to the regular corpses
Ah,
that you
ok,
have
ça
access
va.
to.
Ah, j'ai eu peur.
But don't worry. The Breaker of Oaths has a shop where you can trade wild wisps for corpses that you can place on the ground wherever you are.
Je peux
Buy
le
an
prendre.
eldritch corpse and you will be able to get the bonus while fighting eldritch entities like the Maven.
Eh?
You may notice that most of the corpses he sells are not monsters you normally encounter. You might want to try turning some of these corpses into specters, to take advantage of some of the unique abilities
Eh?
that these monsters have.
Quoi? Quoi?
The Warlock of the Mists gets
Attends,
access
quoi?
to many other abilities. For example, there is a trio of curses that you can pick from.
Ça n'a aucun sens.
One of these curses targets your minions, giving them life degen and making them explode for massive damage when they are near death.
Oh, c'est trop bien, c'est le
One
fixe du
prevents
gardien.
enemies from dealing damage for the latter portion of its duration.
C'est
which
pour
is
le
quite
gardien de
powerful
tuer tes
against
mignons.
bosses. This curse creates the interesting build decision of whether
C'est
or
le
not
fixe
you
du
increase
guardian.
curse duration or reduce.
C'est exactement ce que je voulais. C'est littéralement ce que je
The
voulais.
final curse is a mark that causes enemy phantasms to be spawned when you hit the marked enemy. These phantasms aren't on your side, so they work well with on-hit and on-kill trigger effects, for example. The Primal
j'ai pas
Huntress
écouté.
can teach you to become a
bien, j'ai pas
Wildwood
écouté.
Primalist. Unlike the other new ascendancies, the Primal Huntress lets you customize your tree.
Tu mets quoi là-dedans?
You do this with charms that you can buy from the Primal Huntress for Vivid Wisps.
Cannot take
Charms have
damage
randomly
on
generated
slow.
mods, which give stats from regular
Huh?
ascendancy classes, allowing you to create your own hybrid ascendancy class.
Mais t'as le Pathfinder sur une flasque.
Charms are magic items that are aligned with different attributes. So, for example,
Ta
this
Fortify!
Earthbound charm is strength aligned and has gotten the
Et la
melee hits
Sandos
have a chance to
Jug!
fortify stat from the champion, and the ability to stop your movement speed going below base from the Juggernaut. This interline Corvine charm lets you get the stat that makes your consecrated ground effects linger from the Inquisitor, and the effect that makes cursed enemies explode from the Occultist. Some of the combination of mods that you might find for sale on Charms can be extremely powerful.
Beaver.
So keep a lookout for the Primal Huntress's shop, even if you are not playing as a Primalist.
Holy shit.
As a Primalist, you also get access to a few other interesting abilities.
J'ai pas eu le temps de lire.
Use war cries next to corpses and they have a chance to drop an extra item.
Mais c'est quoi cette merde?
Nearby chests too.
Oh le buff
Primalist
mêlé.
also gets access to a small extra backpack.
Oh le buff
Just in case you
mêlé.
find yourself needing to cart more items to town during your map runs.
Quoi? Non quoi?
If you are unhappy with the class you picked, or you just happen to find a really great item for another one of the classes, you are able to change which class you are using next time you find one of the Asmeri Wanderers. Just remember that you will have to do their quests in order to gain the ascendancy points for that class.
Curieux de savoir.
These
Les
quests will
quests.
lead you towards the ultimate goal of the Asmeri: finding the King in the Mists, defeating him, and cleansing the forest of its affliction once and for all.
Ok.
There are new uniques to find, rewards to claim, and new ascendancy classes
Oh,
to
je suis
master.
tellement
in the
hypé, mon
Affliction.
dieu. Ça a l'air tellement stylé.
Now that we've covered what's in the
Oh,
league,
fuck.
let's talk about some of the changes you can expect to the core game in
Ça a
323.
l'air incroyable.
For a start, Ultimatum is finally going core. When talking to players at ExileCon, it was the #1 feature that people requested.
No shit.
When playing through in-game maps, you may sometimes encounter the Trial Master, who offers you a choice to undertake a Deadly Veil trial in exchange for great rewards. If you defeat the trial, he offers to go double or nothing with you. Do you take the risk and go for an even better reward?
Oh,
or
ça
do
a
you
changé
take the
ça.
winnings you have already earned off the table and go home? We've
Ça a
done a
changé.
full rebalance of Ultimatum and have added many new mods and rewards, including both new and reworked uniques. The base number of
Qu'est-ce que
rounds
c'est
for an
que ce ring?
Ultimatum trial is now
Maximum
always 10,
quality,
with a chance to
200%.
spawn the Trial Master boss fight on the
Attends, c'est
10th
giga
round,
broken.
if you are able to make it that far. As part of 323, we have
Attends,
also
quoi?
removed Metamorph from the game. All the Catalyst rewards from
C'est
Metamorph have
60%
now been
crit
moved to
multi
be
sur le
rewards
ring.
for Ultimatum. We have also added a new Val-themed Catalyst that works on corrupted items. As is normal for most content that gets added to endgame, we have introduced new Ultimatum passive skills to the Atlas tree.
Oh fuck.
One great example is the Keystone Grueling Gauntlet. It makes ultimatums last 3 extra rounds, but you cannot choose the modifiers, and it prevents the final Trial Master boss fight from spawning.
Ok.
The level of challenge becomes
See.
extreme during the last 3 rounds, and not being able to choose the modifiers makes it even harder. But the rewards are
Yes, yeah.
insane, and for those with very high-end characters, it might be a bet worth making. There are lots of other Atlas passive skills you can pick from for Ultimatum, so choose wisely.
Ok.
Now,
See.
it's time to talk about one of the largest metagame changes we've ever made. There were 3 systems in Path of Exile that were all trying to subtly modify the behavior of skills.
Ça a changé le lab.
These were
Ça
alternate
a changé
quality
l'ascendance.
gems, Labyrinth Helmet enchants, and unique threshold jewels. We've combined all of these together to create a new system called Transfigured Gems that allows us to fully achieve the goal of these 3 systems and then some. Transfigured Gems are alternative versions of existing skill gems that have different functionality and balance from their regular versions. We have added a huge number of these with interesting variations that drastically change how existing skills play. For example, Frostbomb of Instability. It changes it from a cooldown skill that you can cast occasionally for a large explosion into a skill that you can cast continuously but deals less damage and doesn't apply cold exposure. It changes
Oh,
the
ça,
role
ça,
of
c'est-
Frostbomb from a utility skill into a main damaging skill.
Il y a beaucoup d'effectiveness sur le skill.
Another
hein.
example is Detonate
Ça,
Dead
c'est
of
stylé, par contre.
Scavenging.
Surtout avec,
You can't use it on
avec
corpses that were created
Awaken
by Desecrate or Unearth,
Pas les cascades,
but in
c'est quoi?
exchange
Ok,
it does
non.
a whole lot more damage. You won't be able to use it as your main reliable source of damage, but it's a great skill to use as a 4-link utility to get some extreme burst damage. Raise Zombie of 4-link.
What the fuck?
Instead of raising a zombie from a corpse, you summon them from mid-air. They fall to their death, dealing AoE damage where they land. While this sounds like a physical damage
instability
version of
one.
Firestorm, you should consider that it scales with minion damage and also triggers on-death minion effects.
Ok.
Blight of Contagion.
Ça a l'air
This version
fort,
of Blight
ça,
is
mais
now
ouais.
spread by Contagion, so you can use it as part of your Essence Drain build. We have a huge number of these. Transfigure Firestorm into Firestorm with Meteors, Transfigure Blade Trap into Blade Trap of Greatswords, Transfigure Barrage into Barrage of Volley Fire, and so on.
Et comment tu les
There's a
obtiens
lot
ces
to
gemmes?
experiment with, and we look forward to seeing what builds you can come up with.
Non, parce que
But
d'accord,
how
mais
do you
comment
get
les a...
Transfigured
Ah, ok.
gems? The Divine Font at the end of the Eternal Labyrinth has been changed to a gem crafting device that can modify your skill and support gems in a lot of new
Et les
ways.
enchantes?
One of the options you can now choose is to turn a skill gem into one of 3 transfigured gems. But that isn't all
Oh,
the
c'est
Divine
stylé.
Font can
Alors
do.
ça, c'est excitant, ça.
It has a lot of other gem
Alors
crafting
ça,
options
c'est
you can
stylé.
use. For example, you can add quality to gems, add experience to gems, sacrifice a gem for one or more treasure keys to open Azara's chests, and you can even exchange support gems for exceptional support gems like Empower or Enlighten.
Waouh,
These are just some
sérieux?
of the options you'll find the Divine Font is now capable of. In order to replace the rewards in Heist that previously gave alternate quality gems, we have done a rebalance of the rewards of Heist as well. Experimented base types have been rebalanced, new replica uniques have been added and old ones changed, and we have increased the amount of currency from display cases
Ok,
as
c'est
well.
bon, gars.
On top of this, we have gone through and buffed the quality stats on most damage dealing skills. In most cases, they will be significantly
Oh,
more
le buff de
powerful
Rolling
than
Mama.
before, and also more interesting.
Oh, le buff de
Overall, this
Rolling
is one
Mama.
of the largest metagame shifts that we've ever done. There are so many crazy new skill combinations to play
Oh,
around,
fuck.
so we expect to see some really interesting new builds. Next up, I'd like to hand back over to Chris to talk
J'ai envie
about the
d'avoir
new
le
supporter
patch.
packs.
Oh, je lis le patch ce soir, c'est sûr.
At this point,
Ah,
we
c'est-
usually talk about the league.
Mais les
supporter
gars,
packs.
je peux pas ne pas
We're
lire le
doing things
patch.
a bit differently this year.
Je peux pas ne pas
Rather
lire le
than
patch.
releasing league supporter packs today and
Je-
our annual
c'est
core
pas
packs 2 weeks
possible.
later, we've combined
Mais
it all
gros, y a
together
trop de
into a
choses.
strong set of core supporter packs that will be released alongside Path of Exile Affliction next week. The series contains 5
Qu'est-ce que c'est que
packs,
cette merde?
each with its full value in points and a collection of exclusive cosmetic microtransactions. The higher
Ah,
packs
c'est
contain
quoi,
physical
ça?
merchandise. We'll unveil the full details of each of the packs
Hein?
released next week. But in the meantime, here's a sneak peek of some of their exclusive cosmetic microtransactions.
C'est ce que je viens de voir
These
là.
packs will be
On peut se faire
available for
fouetter in
purchase when
game.
Path of Exile Affliction launches on the 8th of December. Thank you so much for your
Les gars,
ongoing
je suis
support.
trop été what? Attends, y a des finishers maintenant en jeu.
We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D. Afterwards, we'll post Path of Exile Affliction's full
Oh, ça
patch
merde.
notes. With the release at the end of next week,
Oh,
our
mon
community team will
Dieu.
be posting crucial
Oh,
information
mon
you'll
Dieu.
need for Affliction's release.
Oh
Keep an eye on
mon
the
dieu.
news.
Oh, je suis
On
un
release
gosse.
weekend, we
Ah, c'est
expect
Noël
to
là.
launch the new mystery box and this season's Kyrix Vault Pass. Thanks for joining us today and
Oh, c'est
checking out our
Noël.
latest developments. We're looking forward to exploring the Viridian
Par
Wildwood
contre, il y a eu
with you
zéro
next
info
week.
sur les
We'll
ascendances,
begin the
etc.
Q&A
J'espère
shortly,
on
so
aura ça
please
dans le
get
patch
your
notes.
questions ready.
Oh là là. Oh là là. Oh les gars. Oh, c'est chaud là. Mais attendez, mais par contre, attendez, les enchantes, on les a comment maintenant? Les enchantes, par contre, on n'a pas eu l'info. Oui, comment on a les enchantes? C'est peut-être loot only, hein, les enchantes. Hein. Peut-être que c'est plus loot only. Hein. Ah, y'en a plus. M'en fous, je suis joueur SSF. Elle, m'en fous, j'ai jamais d'enchant de toute façon. Allez, elle, m'en fous. Allez, à toutes.